weirdos and wildlings and wondrous beings of the not here and now. Just taking a moment to celebrate the lands that I am on of the Musqueam and Qayqayt peoples, where I work, live, and play, and the gratitude I have for being able to do so on lands that my ancestors are settlers of, uninvited guests, if you will, and an acknowledgement to the lands that you are on in this moment. It has been some time since my last recording because, one, I got sick. Two, I got moody. Not seasonal affective disorder, though. No. That's my August. I go the other way. But I did have a lot of stressors and such, and it took me a really long time to recover from what I could probably fairly reasonably say was a nice bout of COVID. Thank you. Getting back energy enough to do anything was difficult, and then it was too dark because I record as I'm driving, and there's only one day a week that is actually still light enough as I'm commuting to be able to record and be seen. So here we are. It's been a couple months, and it's been an interesting couple months, but that's probably for another episode. Right now, I just want to kind of get into and enjoy some retrospection. So we're going to do an abysmal retrospective, not an abysmal perspective, but an abysmal retrospective on Imbolc rituals of the past, of which I have done a number of Imbolc group rituals. I feel like it kind of ranks in the Sabbath that I've done most often for groups, potentially, and it's just a bit odd. It might not have. I mean, I've done all of them at one point or another, but Yule is very low numbers in my world, and I feel like Imbolc is pretty high, though my Yule was pretty outstanding, the one that I did a group. I mean, it was a weekend away, very short, very intense, good times. But we're not talking about Yule, we're talking about Imbolc. It's the February 2nd, or 1st, or 2nd, depending on your viewpoint, and I don't remember historically. So first off, because this is an abysmal perspective, I'm not going to get into, too much about what Imbolc is. It's one of the fire festivals, if you like to call them that way, cross-quarter festivals, if you like to call them that way. They are the transitional Sabbats, from my point of view, where we are moving from one season to another, one state of being to another. They're very agricultural, not driven like the equinoxes and solstices by the placement of our relationship to the sun in actual fact, but rather mark the impact of the change in our relationship with the sun on our planet and itself, right? Because Imbolc would be first life springing up. We're not in spring yet. It's still all cold and frozen, and frankly, where I live, that's often where we get more winter weather, is in the beginning of the year than it is in when we consider actual winter, such as the place where I live. Places are different. So what I would say is Northern Hemisphere will have the impact of the sun to your area will shift in roughly the same zones, just in different ways. So we may, maybe someone could have 8 months of winter and 4 months that is not winter. Sounds horrible to me. I suspect that even in that, there are shifts that happen at the other points that kind of denote, or connote, actually, because it would not be a denotation, it would be a connotation, as in it's not definitive, but rather a suggestion, an evocative feeling of the shifting tides of the seasons. Anyhow, Imbolc, February 1st or 2nd, depending on your view. I have in my head canon that Groundhog Day and Imbolc are the same, the one and the same, because Groundhog Day February 2nd, Imbolc, often leads to February 2nd. Candlemas, for those who like the way that the Christian engaged in that particular thing, also considered a fire festival. I am leaning into water as the type of festival, shifting that perspective. Might probably talk about that a different day, probably not today. So in my head canon, Groundhog Day is totally about Imbolc. It is the little rodent comes out, has a look, it sees his shadow, runs back in, 6 more weeks of winter, which is really just a way, it's like when you're scrying based upon things that you see out in the world, has an actual name, which I can't think of right now. It's been a long day, a lot of information going in the brain for work reasons. So when you're getting the signs and reading the signs from nature, that's really what Groundhog Day is. It's reading a sign from nature that says, oh my God, it is so sunny, which also means it's really cold. And because that's what happens at that time of year when it's really sunny, it's also really cold. So that type of weather tends to indicate that we are not done with winter versus you got rainy and overcast. Maybe we've worked our way through the cold and now we're getting into a place of, that softening of the coldness and coming out into spring. But it's either way, we still are on that cusp of shifting, which you all know. So I don't know why I'm going on about it. I was going instead to share some Imbolc rituals, and I think the two that are coming immediately to mind, one for sure was with a group who was my first group. It was a public group through Pagan Book Place in New Westminster, British Columbia, long ago. Oh, so very long ago. And it was a public ritual, and I was leading it with my group at the time, and the things I have convinced people to do over the years, kind of funny. This one, on one level, was it was silly and it was fun and very lighthearted, and I do like the storytelling in these. So we made up our own myth to go with this, and it was about the hardships of winter, and that butterflies had been associated with the summer months, but they had been stolen away and hidden away, and without them we were trapped in eternal winter, that kind of storyline. And then I built the ritual around it. The reason I'm laughing is all of this was based on I was into origami at the time. I mean, I was for some number of years, but there's this really simple pattern, sort of a pattern. You take about, I think it was 6 or 8 or 4, I don't know, it was an even number, of pieces of paper. You fold them into a particular basic shape, and it is quite basic, and then you can interlock them so that they create a ball. Now, you do this with bigger pieces of paper, and it is not the most stable ball. I will say this, it is not particularly stable, but it is a ball, and it will fall apart easily. And I was really entertained by this, so we made up a whole bunch of these balls, but we put the colored pieces facing inwards, so the balls themselves were showing white to the outside, and when we hung them from the ceiling of the ritual room, so it looked like snow was falling down. And when it got to the part of calling in spring and that energetic rise up, and the lightness and the happiness, etc., and the butterflies, right? Calling essentially in the butterflies. Yeah, you know what we did? We reached up and we called them forth, and we hit these snow globes that were hanging everywhere, and poof, 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 these colored butterflies come floating down onto people, who ended up helping us, because there were a couple that were particularly stubborn. It was going to be a stubborn snow season. All of the ritual was because I thought that would be really fun to do, is to be able to like piñata these things and surprise people. I do like surprises in ritual, where something that has been there the whole time is suddenly revealed as something different than was than people were aware of through the rest of the ritual. I have, upon reflection, done that a lot in my rituals. So that was one that amuses me to share with you, and take from it what you will. You'll notice I didn't talk much about the ritual itself. I'm sure it was, we were working a variation, but pretty standard variation of a British traditional practice of Wicca at the time. So I'm sure that that's what we did. That was the main thing, and rather delightful. And the second one was also myth-based, but myth in a different direction. Oh, momentary pause, people. Oh my God. Oh, please. Oh, yes. I do believe this is the case. Oh, this makes me so happy. If it's true, if it's real, is it real? Oh, it is real. Oh my God, I am so happy right now. Oh my God. Why? You're wondering why. You're like, what the hell is wrong with this person? Oh my God, and it's a shiny, multicolored Tesla. Even better. Not that all people who drive Teslas are assholes. It's just that there are a lot of Teslas out here, and a lot of them are assholes. I am driving. I will explain this now. Apropos of nothing. So this has nothing to do with ritual. Aside from, no, it has nothing to do with what I was talking about. But I'm going to share my intense satisfaction in this moment. I am driving a stretch of road that is one lane for the peoples in the cars, and one lane that is for the buses. Not an HOV lane, but a bus lane. Oh, you lucky bastard. Oh, unfortunate. Oh, and there's more. Oh. So what gets me on this road in particular is that people, so many people, that was just now, in those few seconds, 3 people have driven up through the bus lane to cut in at the very top. And it is aggravating as fuck. Yes, I'm using that word. But why I was so happy is that for the first time in all the years that I have driven this particular stretch, which is a decent number at this point, there was a cop. And he pulled somebody over because they were driving in the bus lane. Oh, please let this be a thing that happens regularly now. So much money to be made from assholes on this stretch of road. Because as somebody who ends up waiting in the lineup, if we all just waited in the line, it would clear really quickly. But heaven forbid that you should actually have to wait through 2 extra lights because, oh my God, yes, there were buses who came through and it all clogged up for a minute. But because all these people insist on passing through, if you therefore wait, it's agonizingly slow. So I have a lot of feelings about this particular stretch. And if you are the person who uses a bus lane to go out, you are the asshole. Sometimes things happen you're not aware of necessarily in the moment, but these people are making real choices. Assholes. Okay, that was definitive. Pulling back to Imbolc, which generally speaking is not a Sabbath we can associate with violence necessarily. It's all the milk and the lambing and the fire rising up, which you probably could get into a little bit more of the violence, I suppose. Funny how I would think of fire with violence, but not water. The second myth was pulled from myth. So we used the Psyche Eros myth as the basis of this ritual. This particular one was, God, several years later, a different group of people, also public, was doing it through the university where I was working and also a student. A little bit at the time, part-time, and was part of the Pagan Student Association at the time. So the Pagan Student Association put on the ritual, and it was me and there was a handful of us, and I don't remember yet if we were a coven yet and we did it for the group, or if we were in the process of becoming a coven. But the people I did do it with, ultimately, the main actors, if you will, of the pageantry, were ultimately coven members for a really long time. But it was either early on or not yet formed. And we had some additional people. We assigned roles as people arrived because we needed more players. We needed more people who could take on the parts. And it was doing that actually is when I discovered how close the story of Beauty and the Beast is to the myth of Psyche and Eros, and how, Psyche comes in and there are invisible servants involved, and she has 3 tasks that she had to complete, and I think it was 3 tasks, and we set up these tasks. Like, one of them, we had 2 types of seeds, and we put them all into one bowl and then gave the 2 extra bowls, and the task was to separate them. And the person in the role of Psyche was like calling for help from wherever the help may come. And I do tend to unscripted rituals where the structure is scripted but the wording is not, to encourage especially in that type of storytelling, to encourage going into the story and living it. So she was. And the people in the ritual, they were so there for her. They were like, just stop talking so that we can help you. Stop talking. Stop it. Because she kept entreating for help. They were like, waiting until she was done speaking before they could get in, which turned, because it was going to be a long task. Oh my God. Like, this was not a small amount of seeds. This was like a large amount of seeds. So we spent a couple of those minutes in ritual separating them. And we used the rhythm of the story to explore some of the themes around Imbolc. I mean, do I remember that part particularly at this point? Not overly. It's been, I'm going to say that one was probably 20 plus years ago. So I don't necessarily remember a lot of the specifics unless it particularly entertained me. We did try to bring in as much of the myth into setting up the spirit, the sacred space, the ritual space, as possible. And the best example of that actually was in the ending. We used again, we were doing a relatively standardized Brit trad, or if you will, the never could actually exist eclectic Brit trad, which is my way of saying we were doing a very Brit trad-esque, but not actually fully formalized Gardnerian or Alexandrian or specific tradition, though it did become its own tradition some years in of Wicca. So a little more flex and play. Anyhow, where the myth where I still remember how we overlaid it onto the ritual structure, and I really loved it. I thought it was a really great choice that we made that celebrated both aspects really well. And it was that at the end, Eros and Psyche, they get together. And I think we did a form of marriage ceremony, which became the great rite, and then sharing the cakes and ale was the wedding feast, if you will, which was delightful. So we didn't leave the ritual story and then go and do something different and have the food. We journeyed slowly out of the ritual story as we got into the food. So we opened up the feast through ritual and through ritual story. And then as we feasted, we just allowed the essence of the ritual to fade, to soften, to drift down. So, slowly putting aside the parts as it felt right for everybody. It was really fun. And I would say it was beautiful. It had some weird and quirky moments. I mean, we were also on campus. We were in a classroom. Talk about kind of funky and weird. We were in a classroom doing this. Those were the days, my friend. So there you go. There's a little abysmal retrospective for you on past, fast times at Ridgemont High? So past times in Sabbath. No, I got nothing. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to wish you all the blessings of the season. May the winter soften for you. May the seeds you plant now grow strong, and may the year gift you what you need, if not always what you want. Blessings of the weird and wild to you. Blessed be.